Okay.
Hi, Hongshuo.
Hi, how are you? Good.
And today I would like to speak about your piece, Metamorphosis.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Can you give some kind of short background of the piece, who commissioned the piece or how it started? And
Okay, Metamorphosis is like somehow my final should be my final largest composition for my PhD portfolio. So I try my best to include all the like technology and also idea during my PhD study inside this piece. So overall size of this piece is quite long and normally take like 17 or 18 minutes. And it's involved with like body tracking and sensor gesture tracking, and also with AI conditional generating algorithm inside this piece or in real time. So basically this piece is starting with three performer, like I mentioned, one human performer, me, and with two AI performer. So we somehow form a trial relation, and I will start the piece, and the first AI performer will answer or response to my music, and the second AI musician will like respond to the first AI musician, and I try to respond to the second AI musician. So somehow we establish this like three answer question relationship with each other. Yeah.
got it, but as I understand, right? There's this some kind of at least musical inspiration from these virtual instruments are some Chinese traditional instrument, right? Or
Yes. The of course. Yeah, that's a good point. The instrument, the virtual instrument we choose is like Bianqing. It's like very ancient Chinese instrument. It's percussion instrument. So you basically use strike to like little bit like similar to like we play with bell, and but the material is different because it's made with stone. So the timbre and the texture of the sound is different. And so in this piece, I try to use like physical modeling synthesizer to like rebuild this kind of ancient instrument inside this virtual world. So because we try to like give the same condition to all three musicians inside. So for AI musician, also for me. So we try to find one suitable instrument for this piece at first. And so I found out the benching should be really good because they have like really large range of the pitch in terms of the pitch range, and also the timbre and the texture is quite unique, and also the playing technique is not really difficult if you want to how to say, you want to use kind of sensor, human computer sensor to mimic this kind of playing technique is quite easy because it's just striking. And nowadays you can use like gyroscope and sensor to mimic this like playing technique. Yeah.
so, is it correctly understand that there are like three musicians, right?
Mm-hmm.
One is you, and two are artificial intelligence.
Yes.
But you all three, right? But you all three playing the same instrument, right?
Yes. We all three play the same instrument, but yes, that's correct. Yeah.
What is the main idea of the piece, right? Or main message of the piece?
Yeah, like I mentioned, of course, first idea like try to include everything during my PhD study here, and the idea behind is like I was when I during my like PhD study, I saw heard a lot of people talking about um, the creativity between like human and the machine. So And the one key point for this piece is like I want to create like this hybrid creativity between human and machine, and also try to express this idea about how we can work with the machine and try to find the balance points between automatic and human creativity. So because like a lot of people think about AI, they will take somehow fear about AI is thinking about they will take over the world or just simply can do everything. But I want to express in this piece, without human, the machine cannot like evolve, and also we can learn a lot of things from the machine because they are good at some. Of course, the machine also good at something that can inspire back to our human side. So somehow like use this like, so in general, this piece starting from like one question, like human side to the machine side answer, this question answer pattern, and later on merge together. And so you cannot really differentiate which part is playing by the machine, which part is playing by human. So somehow build this like journals from one to another, like one-dimensional interaction to like multi-dimensional. You cannot differentiate how we create this like sound and the image. Yeah.
I saw, right, that there is some visual element as well. So maybe you can tell a little bit about this sensorial experience, right? What you would like to create for listener, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's quite obvious. Like in first section, we have like three image. It's good. I borrowed the idea from like this kind of Zoom meeting because when I composed this piece, it's just started the lockdown, so everything have to be on Zoom. So each one, you have like small screen for each one on your screen. So I try to like borrow this idea to show the audience we have like three, I would say, people or three like musicians involved this like first section. And I also brought like very old fashioned like online conference idea. If someone speak louder, and they like their little image will like zoom out, and someone else will like become smaller. So for this idea, and so to show how to say to guide the audience like attention. So this also tell them like this time who is like leading this kind of small music phrase. And later on, but you say I break this like three screen layout because I want to also express the idea in this moment we somehow merge together. So I have like three like interlude section between this like first section to the last section. So have the visually like emerge the three screen layout to like one standard layout. So, but in this like virtual space, it also can quite obvious differentiate the color, I say, because in the first section, you see all the color like it's black background. You can saw the instrument itself, but later on it's more like into another world. And so I choose like totally different white background with a white ground. But everything else is more abstract because I want to, in first section, more like give you concrete image about this instrument and how each one is play this instrument. So you have like really three direct effects. When you play this instrument, you have like literally the instrument will move and give you like visually respond. But later on, it's more like indirective. So you guide this like instrument, not directly play with that, and you guide this and with AI help, and this instrument can play and give it like different kind of a timbre and texture of sound.
And if I correctly understand, right, is that these machine learning models just they create only sound material. They do not create visual, right?
Mm, no, but I think I saw this like its overall system. So they have some visual capability. So like me, I don't actually create the visual part, but I interacted with the virtual world. So you saw this what the virtual world have some response, visually response to my interaction. So I give the how to say, I also want to create this connection with the AI musician to this virtual world. So if they want, for example, if I play this instrument at first section, you saw the instrument is moving and have a visual response also for them. So if the AI musician plays this instrument, they have the same reaction. And later on, it's a little bit different, and because but I also want to makes the, how to say, the visual style consists. So you saw like human body shape. It's like real time capture my body, have like key point interaction. And so you saw my more my movement and my everything, how to play this, interact with this virtual world. And also you saw this like line rip style image, like represent the AI. So, but they have more freedom to move around in the world. And, but this moment, especially in last section, I try to create the idea we are not directly play with the instrument, but because our interaction, me and the AI musician, we create this kind of sound and image in this virtual world.
Got it. And right, as I understand, from compositional point of view, it was more like improvisational, right? So you something start, and this AI model responds to, right?
Yes, but for me, because I'm practice too much, I would say sometimes, so I have some like fixed pattern in my mind. So each time we start more or less the same. So just like similar, if you play with someone else, improvise jamming with someone else, you play too many times, so you know each other, you know how he or she will react to your music. So you somehow build this pattern between them. Yeah.
And how you train, and what patterns you train to this machine learning?
Yes, the machine learning model we trained is like it's a mix some database actually. One is a Guqing, is like Chinese Asian instrument scored, and so basically I have two type of database. I mix training, do some mixed training. One is Western style, and not Western style, but some piano context MIDI database, so dataset. So you can find online. I think it's Yamaha E piano context. So they record the real human performer on E piano and basically MIDI information. So, but it's played by human. So, and also it's a large database, and another one is Guqing score database. So basically, traditional Chinese music, especially some Asian score, and so I mix these two together and to train this like AI mode.
And what kind of learning you use? Supervised learning or deep learning or?
It's unsupervised learning, of course, because it's time series. I basically generate the AI mode is by um, generating MIDI like, it's not really like MIDI information, but it's like MIDI like, because they have the pitch, velocity, but also have some time in to give to generate when it's generated. And I use unsupervised learning, and the structure, what is that? It's called Magenta. I think it's from Google, and they publish one paper talking about structure for real, not, how is so close to human with rich expression and velocity. So purpose is to generating some music information, have like rich expression and rich, for example, like time, tempo, and velocity. Yeah.
So you use this Google, right? Soft.js.
Yes.
Use
I think it is based on TensorFlow framework, and but they also did some different change, but basically it's unsupervised learning, and you can imagine when generating stuff, so they take the previous MIDI or the information and should try to generate in the next one. So yeah.
And these two, right? As I understand, there are free musicians.
Sorry?
There are free musicians, right? Free agents.
Yeah.
One is you, and two artificial.
Yes.
And these two agents, they are similarly trained, or there's difference?
No, that's the same. So, but I also try to do that because why I use two AI agents, because I'm thinking about another question for me. When I like interacted with an AI musician, it's like human to machine. I also want to say how the machine to machine, because my research also related to IoT, like Internet of Things. So I'm really curious about how machine to machine interacting, especially in music, can create different, what's the difference between the human to machine and the machine to machine. So that's why, that's the first reason I'm really curious about this interaction. The second reason, because the limitation, because right now the computer is not really powerful to like run everything in real time. But I somehow try to achieve real-time interaction during the composition, especially in the performance. So with two different agents, I can ask one agent to listen to another one and try to generate music information. And during this first musician is like playing what it generates, the second one can start to listen. So somehow I can have two buffers, a switch buffer method to like deal with this kind of like really computational hungry technique. Yeah.
Did you understand? Because you said, right, so that you like to understand how human interacts with machine, right? Different from machine. Do you have already some observations?
Yes, like I mentioned, if you play, like I always like when I compose this piece, you have to play a lot of time with them. So you feel like, when you play with the first, especially first agent, and the first agent start to interact with the second, it somehow create a different dynamic. And of course, the first agent try to mimic what you just do, like what a human musician just did. And but the second, especially second, sorry, the second AI agent somehow try to avoid the first agent did. So it's kind of really interesting result, and because it's not really unconditional generating. I somehow use conditional generating, so which means each time the AI generating somehow limit in sort of I give like how to say the time, and for simplified to say is like I ask the AI agent to generating the music information within sort of pitch range and also within a limited speed. So, for example, generating 10, 10 notes per second, so are just 1 note per second. So somehow use this method to control the speed of what the information will receive. When you give like similar condition to both agent, but one agent is listen to human and one agent is listen to machine, it's different because when listen to human, it tried to mimic, like mentioned, like follow exactly what human did. But for the second, the agent who listened to the machine, it tried to avoid and try to do something different. For example, like if you play just one single note, and the first agent just try to repeat what he did, but the second agent try to like rapidly and just do some variation, and especially in pitch range. Yeah.
And so the compositional dramaturgy, right? There are sections, right? Or did you just beyond the, let's say, the pitch and speed, did you pre-program some, I don't know, they will play 5 minutes like that and 5 minutes different, or how you started and how you end? Are there some dramaturgy as well?
Yes. I do have some like pre-store like a condition I mentioned, like the how many nodes per second. Like each section is different, and what's the pitch range. For example, first pitch range a little bit limited, and later on become more. So you have more dynamic later on. So
Yes.
use this like indirect condition to control overall tension of the composition, the whole. Yeah.
And these sections are right. These are pre-programmed, right? Before that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. The condition is pre-start. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like compositional, let's say, conditions, right, for performance. And what are the main conditions in what you wrote?
First of all, I think the most important is how many notes per second. Like I mentioned, it's really determining how the speed and tempo of the information you got. And the second one is the pitch range and the pitch class. So somehow use it's like similar to 12-tone class system. So you can decide, for example, if you want more C notes, you can give more weight to this C, and if you want other notes, so you give a class of 12 notes, and each notes have the like different weight. So that's can basically give you like the ideal pitch combination you want. And also what else, and temperature. In temperature in machine is like the controls the how to say, the proper possibility of the generation. For example, if you set the temperature to 1, normally it's like 0 to 1 range, they will generating the music information which have the lowest loss. So which means the best choice of the note for him, for the AI agent. But sometimes in competition idea, we don't want the best. We want some adventure or give the AI agent some range or some space to play a little bit standard notes, for example, because if you do like natural language process, repeat stuff is most safe for the AI agent. So in music generation, especially like music information generation, repeat notes will be the best choice for him, for the AI agent. So you don't want to actually repeat every time, right? So you want to give some space or just force the AI agent to choose some nodes not so safe, not so temperature and what else?
How many sections? How many sections in the piece?
I really didn't count how many sections. In overall, like we have. Let's see if I can find. I have some.
Is this sections pre-programmed? Number of sections are pre-programmed, or?
I have like three main section. I would say
Okay.
three main section, and but each inside is different, and because for the visual part and also for the sound processing, some parameter have to pre-store in the system, so I can just quickly record the pre-store information. And so basically, you can think of have like three different sections have a different presets, visual and sound processing. I have to record some pre-stored information to recreate this environment for me and for the AI agent to.
The length of each section, do you determine the length as well? How long it will be? This each section will take place?
No. I basically it's like determined by myself, and because it's improvisation, I can just if I fail, I stay in this section too long, I can quickly jump to the next section.
Okay, so you are the lead. Let's say you are lead musician, right? So you're saying, okay, now stop that and let's go on to the next session. And you are lead musician who stopped composition itself, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
And tell me about this virtual instrument. Did you build on your own, or you use already previously built it?
The virtual instrument I use like it's called Bianqing, and how to say I use the Eurocom. It's called modeling library for physical modeling. And so, but I recreate just build an interface in Max so I can directly use that and also give the interface for the AI, because like I mentioned, it's MIDI-like information, so you have to do some pre-process to send all the information to control or play this like virtual instrument. And the virtual part is like it's really simple because the shape is not difficult. So I just try to do some 3D modeling by myself and put in, I use Touch Designer for the virtual part. Yeah.
And what is about hardware, right? What hardware was involved, right?
Hardware?
Yes.
Hardware?
One computer, several computers, sensors, what else?
Yes.
Visuals.
Let's start from sensor. For the human computer sensor, I use Nintendo Joy-Con. It's like similar to Wii stuff. So basically, you have like two gyroscope for your hand, and one camera for get my whole body image. That's for the sensor part. And for a computer, the recording I use is just one computer, but it's a little bit dangerous, to be honest. And right now I'm want to like use separate computer, which means two computer, one for running AI agent and sound processing, and one in running just visual part. And the speak configuration is 8 ring, so 8 speaker of ring, and so I think that's all. Of course, sometimes for the I use projector sometimes just for the visual part. Yeah.
Got it. The setup. And what software you use? Right. What was software which you use?
The AI agent is have a lot of library inside, but basically it's the Python script and Python. I use Python for the AI agent, and it basically generating all the information and use OSC to send to my other two part. And the sound processing is in Max, and the visual processing is in Touch Designer.
And did you all these pieces, or did you do on your own, or it was somebody else who helped you as well? Some coders or some data scientists?
No, I just try to like learn by myself and try to build by myself. Yeah.
And how long it took for you? How long it took to
compose this piece? I mean, it's really hard to say, but because like some part in, for example, I use a lot during my old piece, sound processing module. I like use a lot in my old piece. But when I start to try to compose this piece, I roughly remember it's like before the lockdown. Actually, it's just before the lockdown. So I should be like 2020 March, or February. So somehow, but because of the lockdown, it's very difficult to access to go to my here studio. So take me about a year to finish, almost finish the piece. So yeah, almost a piece. But like I mentioned, some technique I accumulate during my PhD studies. But when I start officially, so like start to compose the piece, and at the end, I recording like the final of this piece should be like a year for duration. Yeah.
And what was the stages? Which stages you go through?
You mean compositionally?
Yes, it's compositional.
I basically, like I mentioned, I have like few. I have some idea. For example, like I want to use real-time interaction with me and AI. So I have the roughly imagination about this composition. So I just start to develop this like AI somehow can generating music information, and at the first stage, and second stage somehow to do some study about the visual part, because actually I'm quite new with touch scenario also. So, but or parallel doing some like max patching stuff for the sound part. So I basically normally like develop the system first, and later on I just try to compose and to forget about all the technology behind, just try to use them as much as I can. And so first stage like development all the technology, second stage use composition, and but to be honest, sometimes I come back to, because when I compose piece, I found, oh, okay, I need some little bit more, or I need to change a little bit of technology. So I come back to my fixing the bug, especially for the visual part, and I then just try to like I mentioned, I just focus on composition, not the technology. Yeah.
But as I understand, right, in both stages, right, when you develop a technology, right, and when you develop composition, so your writing languages, you do not write scores, you write programs, right? You write a software, right?
Yes.
Even in compositional process, when you think about composition, you write a software, right? Not
not the score. I mean, yeah. Yes, but not true, because I do draw some like I mentioned structure for the piece, and I also have like small, somehow like a reminder for myself to like what I should do for the first section somehow. So yes, more like writing the code when I compose, but also I try to use like some classical idea, structure of music,
Yes, yes,
and
yes. But it's like these structural, these classical ideas. It's for you. It's for your use, right?
mhm.
But with machine, you compose in a way of the code, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Got it. And can you imagine? Can you can you imagine this piece without machine learning models?
Oh, sorry. What was it? What does that mean?
Can you imagine the piece, right? This piece. First of
Mhm.
all, can you imagine the piece with one artificial intelligent agent, not two?
Actually, I did. It's not imagine. I after this piece, I composed a second piece and used a similar idea, but with one agent. But this time with one music instrument player. I think I sent you like conversation in the cloud,
Yes, yes.
the one. So that's actually the one directly one musician with one AI agent. So they charge, but I think you probably saw that. It's like I start with a similar like answer question pattern and
Yes.
later on change. But um, yes,
I
because
think
you say that, I just remember because actually conversation in the cloud should be the first piece when I have this like idea play with the AI agent. But because this the conversation in the cloud is a commission by SWR in Germany and the studio, but because the lockdown, we
yes.
have to postpone this like commission project, and so I just put this idea and somehow the order of these two pieces come
Good, good.
vice versa, you know. Yeah.
And second question: could you imagine that there are no artificial agents? That there are only human, right? So
Yeah.
could this piece be performed by three humans?
Hmm. Uh, and I didn't try that, but maybe yes. Yeah, that's should be a very interesting like direction to do. But I do have like installation actually without any human interaction. Um, mm, Basically, the overall idea is like the machine have some kind of sensor kits, so it can
Yes,
sensor the environment, for example, the temperature, pressure, and
yes,
air condition. Somehow use this uh, sensor to trigger AI agents to generate some music information.
yes.
So so it's roughly have the idea of machine senses the world and create some music. And so, but I didn't try with like machine. We play with another machine, but without human interactive. That should be a very interesting idea. Yeah.
And opposite, can you imagine that there is no intelligence agent, agent, that there are like three humans who play on virtual instrument? Could it be like? Can you imagine that piece as well?
Yes, I can imagine because actually when I composed, I didn't really, how to say, when I composed the Metamorphosis, I didn't really think about this as a agent. I think about this is like another musician. So I always say it's a musician, like three musician. It's um, I would say so AI. I think especially in music composition, is like really give you a chance to dig into the data and what is behind and give you somehow a musician with their own personality and own behavior. So it's quite similar to if you play with another musician. Even you play the same piece, but each musician have their own personality and behavior. So somehow will change the piece. Yeah.
Um, and next question, just right when you when you build the instruments, right? You start trying out your compositional ideas, right? Did it change something within that? Did you go back and iterate on change musicians as well, or rewrote the code?
You mean, do I not need to retrain this? Like,
Yes, yes.
I don't actually. I didn't. I after the training, I only trained like once, and after the training, I didn't really retrain this mode because um, I think it's reached some like satisfied stage I want, because if you train too much with the mode, maybe it come to like it's like I mentioned, it just always give you like best results, but not the good result you want.
Right.
So I somehow limited the training process a little bit, so they have their own, how to say, randomness character a little bit, just keep it. So yeah, and try to use the condition I mentioned to give the direction when generating stuff when the AI generation. Yeah.
And the last question, right? Use something understand, right? Through that process. What is the three main learning points?
Well,
what you learned through during writing this piece?
What I learned. First thing I learned a lot. I'm not really good enough to program an AI agent, and so I understand my limitation. And okay, I somehow get the idea what I should do, or what I should do next, and what I should study next. I think that's quite important for me, and because always when I start some new thing, also get some new inspiration, and you need three. Okay, I try to think about the second. Yeah, also I think because I think this piece also gave like a lot of new idea for me. Like I mentioned, like you just mentioned, like only two machine. How do they can do, and how human and human? Because when I try to compose this piece, I try to answer a question: what's the best balance between people using machine to, especially using AI for creativity stuff. So I think I'm somehow try to like answer this question after compose this piece, because during this piece, in some section, I tried myself, try my best to follow what AI musician did, but sometimes I'm kind of lost because they can, they basically can generate more complex information than I can create right with two sensor. So, so back to my initial question is, did I find like right balance for it? I think I somehow get the direction for later composition. If you want to use, and what's the stage should be remaining, like you never like have, when I first learned using AI, I'm just try to imagine, okay, well, I have like a red button, I just press the button, I get some music. No, it's not really not going to happen. And so you always have to give your how to say, your active to the AI musician somehow can be the tool, or also can be the partner for you for when you compose, but you cannot replace the real human interacting. I think that's the second thing I learned from compose this piece. What else? Yeah. I'm not sure what else, but anyway, I think each of piece when I compose, I always found not only in technology but also in composition. Now I have some not enough or not know enough. So for me, this composition gave me like in structure the thing, because I try to create a large structure piece. So also give me some idea when I compose this piece, use like non-pair structure, because the sound section little bit like I mentioned, I didn't count how many sound section I have, because each sound section is different, and in terms of the condition and the signal processing parameter is different. But visually, section is quite obvious. It's have 3 section, like I mentioned. So I somehow think this like non-pair section, in terms of visual and music, can help to guide the audience for this large scale composition, especially large scale in time domain. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Hongshuo. It was amazing interview, and it was amazing listen more information about this piece. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you too.